These were the last known images of Iran's late president, Ebrahim Raisi. He was calmly giving an interview to a woman dressed head to toe in a black hijab and abaya. No one suspected a thing. Everyone thought she was a devoted Muslim woman, following the faith with full sincerity. But the truth, what came out later, was shocking. That woman was actually Jewish, and she had managed to slip into the inner circle of some of Iran's most powerful men, all under false pretenses, just to uncover what was happening behind closed doors. Her name? Catherine Perez-Shakdam. Soon, it would be all over global news. And Raisi wasn't the only one she spoke to. She sat face to face with none other than Iran's supreme leader, Ayatollah Ali Khamenei. What she learned during that meeting shook her to the core. This woman, Israeli by heritage, may go down in history as the only person to have so completely deceived Iran's leadership. But who is she really? Was she working as a Mossad agent? Was she simply an Israeli journalist? Or was she just a person torn between different ideologies, identities, and beliefs? The answer is just as surprising as her journey. Let's go back to February 2017, in Tehran, during the late afternoon. Catherine was waiting in her hotel room. A black, unmarked car pulled up outside. The back seat windows were tinted. She got in and sat between two silent women from the IRGC. No conversation, just a nod. It was time. She was dressed by the book. Black abaya, hijab, only part of her face showing. She looked exactly like someone you'd trust. Everyone around her believed she was a loyal Muslim woman, obedient, respectful, one of their own. The car drove quietly through the city and turned into a shaded courtyard. Trees blocked out the sun. She was brought into a simple reception room. There was a carpet, cushions, and a small glass of tea on a tray with saffron and sugar crystals. The walls were lined with portraits of Khomeini and Khamenei. There was no gold, no luxury, no visible security. Just a quiet stillness, the kind that usually comes before something important. Then he walked in. Ayatollah Ali Khamenei, supreme leader of Iran, a man known for keeping his distance from women, especially foreign women, and especially women like her. He moved slowly. She was asked to sit on the floor while he remained in his chair. He spoke through a translator, calmly. She listened silently. It all felt unreal, like she was watching herself from outside her own body. He spoke to her like a trusted friend, someone he could confide in. He had no idea who she really was. Jewish, born in France, deep down an Israeli, though even she hadn't fully embraced that part of herself at the time. And yet, Iran's top leader was speaking to her openly, perhaps too openly. But how did she end up in that room to begin with? How did a Jewish foreigner manage to get close to one of the most protected men in Iran? And what did he say to her that she would never forget? To understand that moment, you need to start at the very beginning of her story. Catherine Perez-Shakdam was born in Paris to a secular Jewish family. Her childhood was shaped by the tragedies of the 20th century. Her mother's father fought against the Nazis during the occupation. Her father's father survived the Holocaust. The family carried the weight of fear, but also strength and defiance. Still, religion wasn't a part of her childhood. It simply wasn't present. Her father's side of the family had seen even darker days. Catherine's father, Ebrahim Perez, was born to secular Spanish Jews. In the 1930s, her grandfather, Eli Perez, was a committed communist. That made him a target of Franco's fascist regime. The family tried to flee to British-controlled Palestine, traveling through North Africa. But their escape was cut short in Tunisia, which was then under French rule. When France fell during World War II, Tunisia came under the Nazi-aligned Vichy government. The Perez family was arrested for being Jewish and sent to a Nazi-run concentration camp. There were no gas chambers there, but people died from starvation and disease. One of the Perez children starved to death. Eli Perez, being a doctor, managed to treat a guard who had caught typhoid. In return, that same guard helped the Perez family escape. After the war, they remained in Tunisia. When Edro turned 18, he moved to Paris to study. Years later, Catherine would say in an interview with Aish.com, "My father inherited the trauma of his parents. They never healed. The whole family was broken from the inside out because of what they went through. My father spent his whole life denying who he was. He hated being Jewish. He tried to erase every part of his identity, his accent, his past. For him, being Jewish was like a curse." Catherine's mother, on the other hand, was more at peace with her secular Jewish background. But her father was not just non-religious. He carried a deep self-hatred for his Jewish roots. He hated everything about Judaism and Israel. Her mother's family history followed a different path. Her ancestors had lived as Jews in southern France for generations. Her maternal grandfather, Jean-Baptiste Lay, saw the growing danger of anti-Semitism in the 1930s. To protect his family, he had them convert to Christianity and even change their last name from Levy to Laval. Of course, the Nazis didn't care much for conversions. But because they lived in southern France, under the Vichy regime, they managed to survive. Jean-Baptiste joined the French resistance. He was captured twice, escaped both times, and returned to fight. After the war, he was awarded France's highest military honor. The Lavals returned to identifying as Jewish after the war, but their identity was shaky, disconnected from tradition and religion. It was like a flower cut from its roots. When Catherine was just 11 years old, her mother passed away. She was left in the care of her father, a man who had long rejected his faith and his people. "I was raised very secular," she later explained. "It's not like I was excluded from the Jewish community. I just had no connection to it. I had no sense of what it meant to be Jewish." Her childhood was filled with books, music, and school in Paris. But there were no Shabbat dinners, no synagogue visits, no holidays. Her Jewish identity was more like a whisper in the background, present but never acknowledged. She saw herself as a smart and curious girl from a good family. Religion didn't define her. That full sense of detachment came later. After she moved to London, Catherine was accepted into the prestigious London School of Economics. Life there was unlike anything she had known growing up in Paris. She was suddenly surrounded by students from every corner of the world, exposed to new ideas, cultures, and beliefs. It was in 1999, during her time at LSE, that she met someone who would completely change the course of her life, a Yemeni Muslim man named Faris. Faris was confident, charming, and deeply religious. Rather than feeling threatened or put off by his background, Catherine was intrigued. Just 6 months later, they were married. She was still only 18. To be accepted by Faris's family, she converted to Islam. It wasn't because of a spiritual calling, but more as a compromise to fit in and gain their approval. But that one compromise would lead her down a path she never expected. "I never talked about my background," she would later say, "because I knew if I brought it up, I'd be silenced or bullied, so I just stayed quiet." In the beginning, she tried to adapt, but over time, she began to lose her sense of self. Her Jewish heritage became a silent problem for Ferris's family. They never truly welcomed her. She felt constant pressure to stay quiet, to blend in, and not make anyone uncomfortable. Eventually, she moved with Ferris to Sana'a, the capital of Yemen. Life there was nothing like the one she had known in France. It was extremely conservative, male-dominated, and rigid. For a woman raised in secular Paris, it felt like going back in time. Still, she tried her best to fit in. She began writing, first about Yemen, then about the wider Middle East. From her home, she contributed articles to international news outlets. Her byline started showing up in places like Tehran, Moscow, and across the Arab world. This was the beginning of her career as a political analyst, quietly observing and writing about someone else's conflict. But something in her was changing. While Ferris followed Sunni Islam, Catherine found herself drawn to the Shia branch of the religion. She became fascinated by its teachings, especially its view on sacrifice, mourning, and historical figures like Imam Hussein, the Prophet Muhammad's grandson, who was killed in Karbala. Every year, millions of Shia Muslims make a pilgrimage to Karbala, Iraq, for Arba'in, marking Hussein's death. In a later video, Catherine described it emotionally. 20 million people walking, not because they're forced to, not out of obligation, but out of love for this one imam who means everything to them. For her, Shiism offered more than a religion. It gave her a sense of purpose. At least, that's how it felt at the time. She began studying it in depth, meeting with Shia scholars, writing books and articles defending Shia beliefs. She wasn't just observing anymore. She was deeply involved, but her marriage was crumbling. Her Jewish background, her independence, and her intellectual curiosity clashed with Ferris's expectations. By 2014, the relationship had collapsed. She filed for divorce and was left alone, raising 2 children with no country, no clear identity, and no support system. And yet, that's when everything truly began to shift. That was the turning point. Instead of returning to Judaism, Catherine went deeper into Shiite Islam. As she would later admit, she also went deeper into her own confusion. This marked a new phase of her life, one that would bring her into Iranian media circles and eventually to the supreme leader of Iran himself. To understand how a Jewish woman ended up sitting across from one of the most powerful men in the Islamic Republic, you need to understand this. For many years, even she didn't know who she truly was. After the divorce in 2014, Catherine's life took a sharp and unexpected turn. Alone with 2 kids, she didn't go back to her roots. Instead, she doubled down on Shiite Islam and threw herself deeper into her work. Iranian media took notice. "It all happened fast," she later said. "Iran is so desperate for Western support, they'll welcome anyone with a Western passport." And so, they welcomed her. She started collaborating with Press TV, Tehran Times, Mehr News, and other media tied to the Iranian regime. Her articles, written in English, were broadcast worldwide. She was introduced as an expert in terrorism, a Middle East analyst, a defender of Iran's narrative.